In the beginning, it looked as if the PCs had a lock on a majority. Then an NDP surge. Has that surge kept its momentum or crested? Joining us now for one final update before election night, here's Erin Kelly, CEO of Advanced Symbolics, Inc. She's been interpreting what Polly, the artificial intelligence analyst, has been finding out about Ontario voters' intentions, and your appearances are rather anticipated here by our viewers, I have to tell you. But I also get emails when you come on from people, because they don't understand that you don't poll like all the other pollsters do. They don't quite get how this artificial intelligence thing works. So let's just start there one more time. How do you do what you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, we do follow the scientific methodology of pollsters who do telephone surveys, for example. So we start with a randomized representative sample, a randomized controlled sample of the population we're trying to measure. In this case, a randomized controlled sample of each individual riding. So we make sure that this is a randomized sample, so we know we're not getting everybody in that riding. So we're not getting, if people are campaigning for Liberals or something like that, we're not overrepresented in that. We make sure that it reflects the population of that riding and the demographics of that riding, and it's a randomized representative sample just like in any other scientific survey. It's just much grander. Much grander.
So, and you're in literally all 124 ridings?
All 124 ridings.
Okay. How does the AI come to bear in all of this?
So once the AI, it reads from that sample, it gets all its information from those samples, and it uses text analytics and machine learning to derive how people are leaning or have already decided to vote in the election.
And you think this is preferable to old-style polling because why?
The advantage is, first of all, huge numbers, right? Large, we're not talking 1,500 people, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people. So it's a large sample. It's longitudinal, so we can look back on the whole year, the same people for the whole year, and see how the headlines have affected their decisions and for how long. So how sure are they about their vote? And so those are the two main advantages. And of course, we don't have the question bias, the opt-in bias. I live in a border town. You wouldn't believe how many people who live in Quebec but have 613 telephones are getting polling calls from the parties in this election.
And they can't vote.
And they can't vote.
When you say a border town, you're in Ottawa.
I'm in Ottawa.
Ottawa, Quebec,
yeah.
That border. You know, because I want to put this to you, you do know that there are some mainstream pollsters who've been around for a long time who are casting aspersions on Twitter on what you do. We don't have to name them here, but you all know who you are. What about that? Is there anything to their criticisms of the way you do your surveying?
No, they'd have to be criticizing themselves, because we are using the same methodology, randomized controlled samples. We're just doing it on a much, much larger scale. And also we can do it every day, right? We don't have to wait this week, this is what the poll said. We can update our information every hour if we need to. So it is the wave of the future, and whenever there's a new innovation, you are going to get people who did it the other way who will be threatened by that.
Okay. Having said that, the last time you were here, let's really focus on the numbers now. The last time you were here, you said if Andrea Horwath could figure out a way to steal 5% of Doug Ford's vote, she'd be the Premier of Ontario. She got close to that, and then what happened?
So she got close to that, and then we had, just before the debate, we saw that Andrea Horwath was starting to plateau, and she went down even more after Sunday's debate. So of the 5% we said she needed to eat into, she's eaten into 1%. She had eaten into 2 to 3%, but she's back to 1% of that original base. So we still are seeing that the PCs are far ahead in the seat count.
Do we know what happened to make that sort of approach to the line and then recede from it?
The radical candidates has not helped. That is getting quite a bit of traction since the debate. She was plateauing before. More, do we trust the NDP to run the economy? Now it's toggled more into the radical candidates. That's not helping. But really, it's just, I think there were, and the other thing that is not helping is Kathleen Wynne is starting to rally a bit now. So not enough to win the election, but she is rallying more. So those people who had kind of given up on the Liberals are now considering them again, but not in large numbers.
Let's follow up on that a little bit. Kathleen Wynne had, by your survey, I think, and many others, had a good debate. She won the leaders' debate last Sunday night. The tariff issue with Donald Trump putting tariffs on Canadian steel, she's been very forceful about that as well. Is that working in her favor?
That is a win-win-win for Kathleen Wynne.
How you spelling win?
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
I get you.
And here's the issue. Because she is the Premier, The other two, or at least Andrea Horwath, has to be seen to be rallying, because it's an outside force here, it's Donald Trump. So we need to rally around our premier. So, stabbing the premier in the back when she's being threatened by a president from another country is not going to play well with voters. Mr. Ford, it works against him because he's always said he was a supporter of Donald Trump. So people are now seeing this, they're using the word turncoat that we're seeing on social media. This person is threatening us, and he is seen to be a supporter. So the more Kathleen Wynne can play on this, I am the premier, I'm strong, I'm going to stand up and stick up for Ontario. It should be an Andrea Horwath win because she comes from Hamilton, but people don't seem to be grasping that because Horwath is in this difficult position of she has to support the premier while at the same time being seen as the person who speaks for Steel Country.
So Wynne's vote has moved up a bit since all of this transpired, but you think not enough to affect the outcome?
Not enough, but she might get her own seat now. She is rallying in her own riding.
I saw the numbers. It's practically a tie, isn't it?
It's a tie. It's a dead heat. Statistically, she could win that seat.
Now, we're 6 days still until Election Day. June 7th, next Thursday, is Election Day. We have seen in past elections, things can change dramatically in the last week. So how baked in is everything that you're seeing so far?
What's really baking it for the PCs is the efficiency of their vote. That is something that the other two have not been able to shake, and we're having a hard time seeing how they can shake it now because he's ahead by over 20 seats. Even though Andrea Horwath is slightly ahead, not really statistically relevant, but let's say in a dead heat for the popular vote, Doug Ford has those seats. So there needs to be something that really affects him. And the platform, not having a platform could be it. Don't get into the details about the numbers. It's more, does he have one and is it credible? So we see quite a few, even Doug Ford supporters who are starting to question that and ask about that, whereas they didn't before the debate. So that might be it, but that's being canceled out by radical candidates on the NDP side. So really there needs to be a new issue that comes up in the next week that's going to rally people for the NDP if they're going to break out of that. And it's hard to see what that would be right now.
And just to clarify, not only does this new unforeseen issue have to come up in the last week of the campaign, but it's got to be one of those issues that sees Andrea Horwath stealing votes from Ford as opposed to Wynne for the NDP to win.
Exactly, for the NDP to win.
Okay. Can you, I don't know if Paulie does this, but is there any speculation or can your imagination go to a place which suggests here's the kind of issue that could turn it still?
Well, what makes Doug Ford popular is the economy, jobs, he's starting to bring out who would be in his government. That's what people like about Doug Ford, so you would think that's where you have to hit him. I don't think it's going to be some, scandal. It's not going to be because a candidate misspeaks or something like that. It needs to be something where he's strong, and it's hard to see what that would be right now.
One of the things, I go door to door with candidates from time to time just to hear what people are saying at the door, and I can't recall a time so close to Election Day where so many people, at least here's what they say, they're not sure. They're undecided. Are you picking that up?
We are definitely picking that up, and that's a big concern. It should be a big concern for all of the parties, but especially we know conservative voters do tend to vote, whether they're happy with what they're voting for or not. And often when the undecided is high, and we're still seeing undecided in some ridings as high as 20%, when the undecided is that high, people will tend not to vote, because if you're not passionate about who you're voting for, something else comes up and you're more likely. So that's going to be key for especially Andrea Horwath to get that vote out, because people who tend not to vote are, some of her support is, well, I don't want to vote for the other two, but she's also got some youth and the Aboriginal vote. Those are usually at risk for not coming to the polls, so she's got to really get those people out.
Let's just take a moment here and talk about various regions of the province. The Liberal vote in Southwestern Ontario is where now?
It's zero.
Disappeared.
It's disappeared.
Okay. In Brampton, what's happening there?
Brampton is going all NDP. Every single riding in Brampton right now we're showing NDP. Very strong showing.
The federal NDP leader's brother is running in one of the Brampton ridings. The PCs have tackled him with this issue of him holding up a sign with obscenity about the police from many, many years ago. Not affecting him?
No, it doesn't seem to be. It's definitely all NDP, Brampton.
Eastern Ontario, your neck of the woods?
Eastern Ontario, interesting. It's mostly going PC. We're not seeing Liberals in Eastern Ontario. So
That's weird. That's
yeah.
weird. I mean, Eastern Ontario was
Used
always...
to be Liberal. Used to be Liberal. And we have some cabinet ministers out there who are very strong, who are struggling for survival right now.
Yasser Naqvi? Natalie
Struggling
DeRosier?
Yeah, all struggling.
Bob Shirelli?
He's not struggling. I don't know that riding seems to be very firmly PC.
Okay, they're all in trouble then. They're all in trouble. How about up north?
North is, for the most part, NDP. We do see, some places where the Liberals are strong, but it's mostly NDP. It's really interesting. You see at the core, around the GTA, with the exception of Brampton and Mississauga-Malton, mostly PC. As you get to border town like London, and that you get NDP because they're manufacturing towns, and then as you get outside of the GTA, it goes orange. And so it's very interesting from a regional perspective how this election might play out, where you might have some people or whole regions left out of government.
The general elections in 2003, 07, 11, and 14, not a single Conservative elected in the 416 in any of those elections. That's going to change this time, isn't it?
That's going to change,
The PCs are going to win seats in the capital city.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. How about, I guess one of the other interesting questions is Guelph. Are the Greens finally going to make a breakthrough there?
They are in a statistical dead heat with the NDP. So the leader of the Greens obviously is in Guelph, and we are seeing them as 0.1% of a difference right now, which is statistically, they're in a dead heat.
0.1% of a difference between him and whoever's in front of him.
Mark Schreiner and the NDP.
Mike
yeah.
Schreiner. Okay.
So he's got a real shot there. The Greens might get a seat.
Huh. Okay, let's ask about, there's one riding in this province that for the last 40 plus years has always voted for the winner. It's Peterborough. It's now called Peterborough-Kawartha. They changed the name of the riding. How's that looking?
PC, all the way, like 41%.
41%.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for that one clue that suggests here's how the night is going to turn, you look at Peterborough-Kawartha, and at the moment it's strongly conservative.
If they are a bellwether, then the province is going conservative.
Huh. Is there anything out there right now where you look at the numbers and you think, oh my goodness, that's a shock, I didn't see that coming?
Well, yes. I would say Etobicoke North, which is Doug Ford's riding, he's winning it, but it's not a landslide as you would expect, given how the GTA is going with the PCs, and he is the leader of the party. So he's not, I found that surprising. Now, I think Etobicoke North wasn't PC before, so he's come into that riding. Mm-hmm. But you would think at this point in the campaign he'd be further ahead than he is. And then there's some places, like we've mentioned, Bay of Quinte, it's still PC, but it's very close. And that's typically...
That should be a safe Tory seat.
That should be a safe Tory seat. And it's a Tory seat, but it's not safe. And so I think those are the ones that are the most surprising to me, and maybe the Premier losing her seat, but often that happens when I think, and the other big surprise obviously is just how badly the Liberals have fallen. Mm-hmm.
But ironically, the leader of the third place party in the last legislature, Andrea Horwath, she's got a lock on her riding in Hamilton Centre, right?
Oh,
she's
and
through
all
the
of
roof.
Hamilton, yeah.
And all of Hamilton as well.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. We're on the verge of seeing our third Mike Harris elected in the Ontario legislature. Not the former premier, not the former member for Conestoga, but the former premier's son, whose name is also Mike Harris.
Right.
He's leading in Conestoga right now.
Yeah, easily leading. Yeah, that'll be a good PC riding.
The last time you were here, you told us you had the Liberals with one seat. Where you got them now?
They're at 2, because I said she's been rallying this week.
Right.
So she's doubled her seat count. Both in Toronto Centre and Toronto St. Paul's. Those two have been toggling, but they're now Liberal. But they're not, she's not winning by a landslide, but she's got those 2 seats for Hill today.
All right, again on the numbers, one of the anomalies in our system is that oftentimes the party that gets the most votes doesn't win. Who's got, according to your polling, who's got the most, if the election were held today, who would win the most number of votes?
At the general population, slightly Andrea Horwath, though it's almost a statistical tie with the PCs and the NDP.
Okay, despite the fact that the total vote count is close, what does the seat count look like tonight?
PC majority government.
Obviously, that can change over the next 6 days.
It can change.
But at the moment, the way you've got the numbers breaking out, riding by riding, is a PC majority.
And that has been consistent. Is just such an efficient vote for the PCs that even though Andrea Horwath has done a great job at the general vote, general population, she has not been able to break up that seat count.
Let me ask you about a couple of things having to do with Doug Ford. What is Pauley picking up in terms of those voters who are concerned about the fact that there's really no fully costed PC party platform in the way that there is a Liberal, Green, and NDP platform? That's one thing. And number two, the sort of, you get these pretty superficial Trump-Ford comparisons. And I wonder why neither of those things seem to have depressed the PC vote all that much so far.
Well, this week we are seeing on the platform issue, because we've been monitoring it all through the campaign, it hasn't seemed to have been an issue. It's now becoming an issue, and significantly with people who are leaning PC. So of the people who are discussing his lack of a platform, or his perceived lack of a platform, 30% of those people discussing it are leaning PC. So that's pretty interesting, because usually people who criticize Doug Ford are people who are never going to vote for him. So we are seeing that. Now, will it translate in this last week into him losing support at the riding level? Don't know. So far, no. But it is starting to become an issue. Comparisons with Trump, we might see that now a little bit more with the aluminum and steel issue, with Donald Trump being a little bit more in our face this week. But yeah, so far, it's been less than 10% of the population are really discussing that issue. I think it's just been talked about maybe a little bit too much, and the ones who are convinced by that are convinced by that, and his supporters don't seem to be. It seems to be Liberal NDP. But we'll see this week if that changes with this video circulating around about how he's always been a Trump supporter.
Okay, in our last 30 seconds here, you've got, as you have for the last few times that you've been here, you've got it today as a Tory majority. Do you think there's anything that can happen in the next 6 days to affect that?
Not seeing it. Because, like I said, Andrea Horwath's momentum is going down, not up. She seems to have plateaued. There's a bit of a rally for Kathleen Wynne, but she's coming from so far from behind that it's hard to see what will shake this right now.
Got it. See you election night.
See you then, Steve.
Gonna be interesting. Gonna be interesting. That's Erin Kelly, Advanced Symbolics. Thanks for flying in from Ottawa for us, Erin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.